Hello, welcome to another round of Championship predictions from the Onsport Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me, as always, is Mr. Daniel Cody. Let's have a quick recap of all the fixtures from this past week in the Championship, and we start off with last weekend. And 3 perfect scores overall, 2 for myself, and that was in the Coventry 0, Burnley 1 game, and Millwall 2, Middlesbrough 0. Daniel Cody also picks up that perfect score with Swansea beating Sunderland by 2-1. However, it was just enough for me to win matchday 14 by 8 points to 7. That's how close it got. And in midweek, 2 games overall and 1 perfect score. And that was Wigan beating Blackburn by 1-0. Other than that, no points in the other game. So I win, obviously, the midweek one by 3 points to 0.
Thanks, Bristol City.
Thanks to Bristol City and me keeping faith in Blackburn losing. Right, let's get on to this weekend's fixtures. Start with Saturday. We're going to Saturday. 2 early kickoffs. Luton versus QPR. It's on the red button, apparently. Didn't even know. Luton drew 0-0 at West Brom, and QPR beat Reading by 2-1 on Friday.
Yeah, good win for QPR. And again, they're not blowing anyone away, but they're very solid at the back of QPR. They've started really well. And we talked about Michael Beale settling in, but they're now up to 3rd place. They're level on points with the top 2 that we thought might run away with it at one point in recent weeks. But the Championship is doing Championship things again. And for QPR, if they can keep nicking the odd goal, they're going to be fine. And they've got a great record against Luton. They've won the last 4 games against them. I think Luton at home, been okay. Defensively in midweeks have struggled, but the last weekend game was a good win against Blackburn. Everything's screaming Championship's favourite scoreline, but QPR always beat Luton. But they're not going to this time. I'm going one more. 2-2.
Oh.
Because I made that mistake with West Brom, so why not do it again?
I'm going to stick with the 2-1 QPR win. QPR doing very well at the moment. Watched the first half against Reading. Played some really good stuff. Got the equaliser. I thought they were pretty good, and obviously they're just ticking along, not being expensive. Oh yeah, look out for QPR. They're just running along. Obviously now joint top of the table because Sheffield United are flubbing this up at the moment. But yeah, they're doing very well under Michael Beale. Very, very well, and you can see why Aston Villa and Steven Gerrard are struggling at the moment because he seems to be the brains behind the wheel for Gerrard. So Luton, on the other hand, 0-0, clean sheet. I'm happy with a clean sheet. It wasn't a great game to watch. Probably the worst game out of the weekend, which is unlike Luton, really. But I'm going to go QPR just because QPR always seem to be Luton. I can't understand why, but 2-1. Yorkshire Derby, Rotherham versus Huddersfield at the New York Stadium. Rotherham, they lost 3-0 at Blackburn, and Huddersfield beat Hull by 2-0.
Yeah, Rotherham worrying signs the last 4 games, isn't it? They're 2 points, not in the greatest of nick and starting to slide down the table. And I don't want to say I told you so, because I know Paul Warne's a factor too, but I did mention it on paper. They had a friendlier start to the season. They've now got this run of sides that finished in the top half last year, and it's not going quite so well at the moment. And one of those sides, Huddersfield, obviously have had an awful start, but far more promising signs against Hull for them. A good 2-0 win. Obviously important for them to get, 2 points within safety now. And Mark Fotheringham maybe just starting to show signs that he might be the man. So we'll wait and see how that pulls off. But this game is so hard to predict. I think I'm going to sit on the fence. Huddersfield have shown more of a goal threat in the last week, but they're not going to do enough. Rotherham will shut up shop 1-1. Another draw for them.
I'm going to do the same scoreline as I just did in the first game. I'm going to go 2-1 to Huddersfield. Obviously it's going to be a tough start for Matt Taylor at Rotherham. Obviously getting his feet in. Mark Rotherham's pretty much had an extra week, really, to get his side in. But they've picked up 4 points in the last 2 games, and they'll be absolutely delighted with that Huddersfield. So, yeah, obviously the first goal's an own goal, and sometimes you need a bit of luck like that way. So they had a bit of luck on the game before with pretty much 2 own goals that game. So they're finding a bit of luck at the moment, and now the momentum's starting to go his way, but you never know in football. It can easily be taken away. But I think they're going to win this game by 2-1. Right, Bristol City versus Millwall. Bristol City beat Preston by 2-1 in midweek, very late on. And Millwall last weekend, they beat Middlesbrough by 2-0.
Yeah, better from Millwall, more what we expected at home, albeit against a struggling side again, as it was previously against Blackpool. But Bristol City, what do you even predict now? I mean, it's so like last season, isn't it? There's goals going in at both ends. They're inconsistent. They've gone 5 without a win, and then they pick up a great win against a solid defensive side and late on as well. You just don't know what to go for. And despite the fact Bristol City had been on an awful run and lost 4 in 5, they're still in the top half. They're still only 3 points off the playoffs. I mean, even for the Championship, this is the tightest I can remember. The whole top half are separated by 6 points. It's ridiculous. Millwall are just a further point behind that. I don't want to sit on the fence again, but Millwall have been so poor away from home. I feel like I have to back Bristol City, and I know it's a dangerous thing to do. I'm going to go for the same score as midweek, 2-1 Bristol City.
Yeah, obviously very good recovery win for Bristol City in midweek, because then they got absolutely trounced by Birmingham. That was a great victory for them. They needed that victory really, because it was starting to get a bit stale. And obviously, get victory against a hapless Middlesbrough at the moment is more than ideal anyway for them. I'm going to go Championship favourite scoreline of 1-1 because I can't. By the time I pick Bristol City to win, they get battered. The time I pick them to lose, they win. So I'm going to Championship favourite scoreline. Right, next up, Burnley versus Swansea at Turf Moor. Burnley beat Coventry by 1-0, and Swansea beat Sunderland by 2-1.
Yes, 4 wins in a row for Swansea, 5 in 6 into the playoffs, doing very well. But Burnley are so solid. They don't lose games, do they? Just a 1 defeat in 13, lots of draws, and that's where I'm stuck at the moment. Do I go for the Burnley win? Because Swansea, even though they've been winning games, the last 3 games, they've still been letting in goals. Burnley are going to have a lot of the ball. Swansea are going to want to have a lot of the ball. Maybe not having it will suit them, because we have seen at times last season it did work in their favour. Everything's screaming 1-1. 1-0 Burnley.
1-0 Burnley. I'm going to go 2-1 to Burnley. Like Swansea's performance has been absolutely fantastic, and as much as it bugs me, but you've got to give Russell Martin a bit of credit for it. 4 straight wins, as you said. They've found something. It's working, but they're finding their form at the moment. Fantastic to see. Burnley, I think, in a good way, have just gone under the radar as well as much as QPR, because I think where everyone, after the first game of the season, it was obviously the first game on Sky, everyone had the hype, this Burnley side is going to be mustard on the company. And then they kept quiet because Sheffield United were doing well, Norwich should be in Norwich. And Burnley, I know they're picking up a couple of draws here, but they're still picking up wins there. So they still only lost 1 so far this season. So it's been good for Vincent Company. It's still early, it's still early stages. I think they're going to beat Swansea by 2-1 because it's just at Turf Moor. Right, Cardiff beat Coventry at the Cardiff City Stadium. Cardiff beat Wigan by 3-1, and Coventry lost 1-0 to Burnley.
Well, you talk about teams finding form, and Cardiff are certainly falling into that category, because Mark Hudson's given one hell of an audition for the job. That's 7 points in 3 games and a really good win away at Wigan. Good performance. And for me, he's got to get the job soon. I know they had that disappointment with Steve Morrison in a similar situation, but for me, he's the right man for it now. Coventry disappointing. Where's the goal threat gone? 1 goal in 4 games. They don't look anything like the side they were last season. And they're losing some as well. I know they've picked up some 0-0 draws recently, and I'm very tempted, take aside the Wigan game, with Cardiff's general form this season, to go 0-0. So that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go 0-0. I think this will be the worst game of the weekend. But if Coventry turn up going forward, then their season will turn quickly.
I'm going to go for a Coventry win by 1-0. Yeah, it's been a good 3 games for Cardiff and for Mark Hudson. But Coventry at the moment, they can just pick up this random result and get back in it, but they'll lose a City game afterwards. So I think this could be the game they'll win a game, and hopefully they can pick up that momentum to actually carry on, because I know they still got to play catch up. I know obviously the 2 fixtures that were in midweek wasn't Coventry when they desperately need to catch up, and obviously the situation with the ground at the moment, considering Wasps have going into administration, is not ideal. There's another distraction. I know it's got nothing to do with Coventry, but it's Wasps ground at the end of the day. So we'll let's see on that. But I think they're going to nick this one by 1-0. Right, Middlesbrough versus Blackburn. Another defeat for Middlesbrough, obviously away at Millwall, and Blackburn, I called it right, lost again.
Yeah, win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. And I think you know what we're both going to have to go for now, don't you, based on that?
Draw.
The problem is the last 3 games, Middlesbrough have gone loss, win, loss. So you would suggest that both sides are due a win, but I mean, Middlesbrough have still been disappointing. I know they nicked a 1-0 at home to Birmingham. I know they nicked a 1-0 at home to Sunderland, but at no stage this season have they looked convincing. Bar that Birmingham game, they haven't scored in their last four, and that includes bottom of the table Coventry. That includes a struggle in Rotherham now, and that includes a Millwall side that hadn't started great. So I'm gravely concerned for them. I really am. Still no manager as we record. Still no sign of a manager as we record. And Blackburn are due a win away from home. They've been awful the last three games. They haven't scored in their last three away matches. They've lost by an aggregate of 4-0. This is, for me, the hardest one of the weekend. But Middlesbrough are so out of form. I'm going to go for Blackburn to nick it by 2-1. Just going with your formula from midweek, even though I have no faith in them away from home.
Yeah, I would have gone for Blackburn as well, and I have done that by 2-1. I told you about Blackburn because they are literally living last season
and the one before,
and the one before of just consistency of inconsistency. Another defeat for them. Not ideal against a local rival in Wigan, who Wigan have got a fantastic record against Blackburn at home, I think. So incredible record. Middlesbrough, obviously no manager. Obviously, there was talk of Lee Catamol's been a favourite. Michael Carrick turned it down, which surprised me, but it's not been pretty at all. But I'm going Blackburn to nick it by 2-1. Preston versus Stoke. Preston lost to Bristol City midweek, and Stoke beat Sheffield United by 3-1.
Prior to last week, this would have been a shoo-in for worst game of the weekend, but there's some goals starting to go in these teams' games now. Preston, I don't know what's happened. That's 4 in and 4 against in the last two games, which is basically doubling their goals for the season on both fronts.
They needed that.
They did. And I tell you what, Stoke needed a win, and what a win it was as well. I know Sheffield United hadn't had the best week, but great stat with Phil Jagielka as well, scoring a goal in a game featuring Sheffield United in his teens, 20s, 30s and 40s. I love that. But I don't know what to go for this week. And I know it's bold, and I know I've done it once already, and I risk putting myself out of a lot of games, but I'm going to go for Preston to go back to form, Stoke to go back to being uninspiring, because how often do we get two great Stoke performances in a row? Let's be fair. I'm going back to 0-0.
Oh, I wrote 1-0 for you, because I generally thought that's where you were going. I'm going to go Championship favourite score on a 1-1. Preston, obviously, disappointing to lose. That's a stupid corner to give away, to be honest. Very header and 6 yards. You can't afford to do that in the last minute. But it was a good result before that. Stoke, fantastic result. No one's probably saw that coming. Especially against Sheffield United, who's quite stern in defence. 3-1 at home, very good victory. Is that this turn that Mike O'Neill? Is that the turn that he ain't getting that turn? It's the turn that Alex Neil needs now for Stoke to kick on? Maybe, but they've got to be, as I've said, Blackburn, they've got to be consistent, and they're not at the moment. So I'm going to Championship favourite score on a 1-1. But it's also nice to see that Brad Potts is now Erling Haaland's cousin, and he scored a worldie against Luton. He's only 18 years old. Right, moving on. Next game is Reading versus West Brom. Reading lost to QPR 2-1, and West Brom drew 0-0. What a shock against Luton. And Steve Bruce is gone.
Yeah, I don't think that's the most shocking bit of news of the season, is it, if we're being fair? But I don't know what's happened to West Brom. It seems like you're getting either a relatively solid defensive performance or a decent attacking one, and never both together. And it's so strange. They started the season quite promisingly in terms of performances, but then some of them star midfielders they signed have dropped out the team, and they just looked uninspired. And you know it, once the fans have turned, to that extent, you're not getting them back. And it was a very flat atmosphere. They didn't really threaten much, but overall, we know Steve Bruce was going to be going soon. But that does mean that someone's got a chance to prove they're the right man for the job in interim basis. But they go to Reading, who I know they've not had the best week, but have had a very good season so far. They've been excellent at home. And even though they only got 1 point this week, they've played Norwich and QPR, and they've been right in both games, which last season, Reading were losing away from home 3s and 4s with regularity. So I think they've been really improved. Paul Ince, for me, is doing a marvellous job. And I love seeing a team in the top 6 with a negative goal difference. So for that reason, I'm going to back Reading to win. West Brom need a manager quick. I'm going to go 1-0 because I can't see West Brom scoring at the minute.
I can. 2-1 Reading, though. Obviously, Andy Carroll back on the score sheet again with a horrendous number to wear. I don't care what Charlie thinks, but Reading played all right. To be fair, against QPR, from the bits I saw, they played all right. But at the moment, West Brom for me has been the most boring team. But that might change. A different man in charge, different philosophy might work out for them. So we'll have to wait and see who takes charge. But I'm going to go Reading to nick it by 2-1. Right, Sheffield United v Blackpool. Sheffield United lost 3-1 at Stoke, but Blackpool beat Watford by the same scoreline.
Yeah, result of the week, and fair play. A few people who do the regulars in the comments predicted that right in terms of outcome, which we didn't. But Blackpool have picked up a result when we don't expect it, and it's just keeping their heads above the water at the minute. Having said that, bar the Huddersfield game where they were fortunate due to broken goal line technology, they've looked really poor away from home a lot of the time. They've either gone very defensive to get the 0-0s like we saw against Sunderland, or they've been beaten quite handsomely, as they were at Rotherham. So I'm not particularly optimistic for Blackpool in this game. It's been a bad week for Sheffield United. Maybe the QPR one, not a disaster. The Birmingham one, frustrating. But against Stoke, they were poor. So they need to bounce back. I think they will. I think Blackpool might give them a scare just because it'll be a little bit nervy at first at Bramall Lane. They have to score first to win this game. Sheffield United, 2-1. Not many goals this weekend.
No, you've
very low for me.
Cautious, very cautious. I'm going to up it this time. I'm going to go Sheffield United to win by 3-2.
Ooh.
I can see both teams trying to play some expansive football, trying to attack. I think they could get caught out on a counter attack a couple of times. Yeah, he scored 2 against Watford, 2 good goals. But Sheffield United really need to bounce back. Really need to find that form that everyone was raving about. So I think this could be a game that would be open but scrappy, but they need to pick up 3 points. So I'm going to go 3-2 to Sheffield United. Right, 3 to go. Sunderland versus Wigan. Sunderland lost 2-1 at Swansea, and Wigan beat Blackburn by 1-0.
Yeah, it was a great goal to win the game as well from Wigan, by the way. Really good goal. A solid performance and a first home win, which will give them massive confidence. But obviously, last game was their first away defeat of the season. Sunderland are in poor form after a promising start under Tony Mowbray. Although 3 draws in a row, not a disaster in the Championship. They're comfortable in mid-table. They're in the mix. And to be honest, for both of these sides, if you took a report after coming up, a quarter of the way through the season now, I think they'll both be delighted to be in 9th and 13th, 1 point apart or 2 points apart. Really solid start for both, especially when you consider what's happened for Sunderland managerial-wise. I think this is going to be a really tense, tight game. It's a battle of counter-attack versus possession. See, Wigan have been great on the road, but I've just got a feeling Sunderland will keep it tighter, and I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1.
I'm going to go 2-0 to Sunderland. Sunderland, they're disappointed away at Swansea. It's gone off the boil a little bit. I'm not particularly sure. I can't really recall this on the side at the moment because it's a bit of a hit and miss at the moment, which I think they'll take that, to be fair. Any promoted side that comes up will take a hit and miss starts of the season. So, as you said, 9th and 13th is fantastic so far for me. I think they've gone way above their weight at the moment. And I'm going to go Sunderland to nick it by 2-0. Right, 2 to go. Watford v Norwich. I'm so buzzing for this game. 7:45 kickoff. Watford lost 3-1 to Blackpool, and Norwich, they lost 3-2 to Preston.
I feel there's a risk that your sarcasm didn't come along strongly enough there. It is a really disappointing weekend for both. Really disappointing. Norwich are home to Preston. I mean, to let in 3 goals to Preston is a calamity based on what we've seen this season so far. And Watford were poor twice in a row now. It looked so great in the first game under Slaven Bilic, and it is amazing when you see the stat that he's now lost as many games as Rob Edwards. It is quite amusing, isn't it? But look, this is going to be a very cagey game, in my opinion. I think both sides will be more worried about not losing than winning. Probably still a better point for Norwich on the road than Watford because the ascendancy's on them to start making up the ground now. They're in the bottom half at the minute, but 2 wins and that completely changes. I don't want to go 1-1 again. I'm going to go for Norwich to nick it, 2-1 because Watford, I know they were great against Stoke, but if you take the other 3 games in their last 4, they've let in 7. They've had holes all over the back 4 in the counter-attack. I think they might get caught. So 2-1 Norwich, they're a bit more ruthless.
I'm going to go 1-1. To be honest, you picked the 2 scorelines there for me, and there's either or. Just waiting for your one. But no, I think Vicarage Road could be really cagey because they lost the last 2 games. I think fans might start to get restless if Norwich start well, score early on. and fans might turn. I think it might not turn on Bilic, but they might turn on obviously the owners and all that rubbish because the players haven't been good enough already. So, as you said, I think Norwich should be happy with that point. So I'm going to go Championship favourite score of 1-1. Last game, Hull on Sunday. They're playing Birmingham. Hull lost 2-0 at Huddersfield, and Birmingham beat Bristol City by 3-0.
Yeah, and thanks to Sky for meaning our Sunday predictions will be out very late because we can't record them till 5 o'clock now. Birmingham are brilliant against Bristol City.
Yeah.
Really good. And no one saw it coming. I mean, you never back Bristol City, and even you didn't see that coming. So you've got to be pleased for Birmingham. And they're similar. They're just every 4 or 5 games, they pick up a brilliant win. And it just keeps them comfortable across the line in a sort of lower mid-table. And they're doing all right. John Eustace is doing a solid job with the resources and the players he had. And he's getting the best out of them. And crucially, he's made them solid defensively. 2 goals conceded in the last 4. The attacking threats hit and miss. But again, with a lot of young players going forward, you'd probably take that this season for Birmingham.
They've got Chong back, and he seems to be giving that attacking spark for him.
Yeah, and he's been playing in a lot more of an aggressive position, so definitely making a difference for them. Hull back to being Hull after one brief glimpse against Wigan. That's 5 defeats in 6 now. I would expect a manager to be in place after this game, to be honest. I know there's a quick turnaround for midweek, but I don't think they're going to leave it long because they're in danger. They're in big danger. They've got the worst goal difference in the league. They've let in, 4 more than Bristol City, which is some feat at this stage of the season. And they've stopped scoring goals as well now.
They are scoring, but in the wrong net.
No, that's true. Own goals against Huddersfield and Luton, and, no goals in the right end in 5 of their last 6 games. So I have to back Birmingham. I don't think it'll be a great game. I don't think it'll be entertaining. But the way Hull play out from the back, if Birmingham press, they could catch them. So rather than going for 1, I'm going to finish with the extra goal. I'm going to go 2-0 Birmingham because you can't back Hull to score.
I can back Hull to score, and I'm going to back Hull to score because Birmingham do always concede, but I think Birmingham are going to score for fun. I'm going to go 3-1 to Birmingham.
Wow.
Obviously, they played well last week. If they can keep that momentum, they'll be fine. But that was a good win for Birmingham. Hull, another poor defeat, and they didn't look like scoring against Huddersfield. They're rubbish. They didn't look like scoring against Luton, and they were rubbish. They need something different in this side. They need that new manager, whoever it will be, needs to basically come in and give new ideas. And let's have a quick recap what we predicted for this weekend's action. I've only gone for 2 teams to score more than 2, and that's Sheffield United and Birmingham, both to win. Down because Cody's gone quite reserved. A lot of 2-1s, a 0-0, couple of 0-0s, and the odd goal here and there. And those are predictions for this weekend's action in the Championship. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comments and give us your predictions. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football 3. I'll see you next time.